Good evening, everybody. Thursday night here on Live Weather Impact. A lot to talk about. We've got storms moving into the area. I'm Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. It is June 18th. We're going to get right into it because we do have some scattered storms already developing across the area. These are isolated, but we're seeing some cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. So in Mecklenburg County, starting to see pop-up showers and storms actually really starting to expand quite a bit. So this is probably the beginning of what's going to be a pretty active evening, and I think more an active overnight as we see showers and storms really begin to break out across the area ahead of the main line, which is to the south, and I'll show you that here in a minute. In the mountains and foothills, this is all old hat for you. You've seen showers and storms on and off throughout the day, especially up here near the Virginia line. This has been an active 24 hours where we've seen some storms up there, also some severe weather north of the triad. So Tim will join me here momentarily. He's tracking some pretty good storms up there, but you can see the big line. This is the main line that is going to be coming in later tonight. I think that main line gets here probably 10ish, maybe 11, and then after midnight the bigger circulation associated with the remnant low of what was Arthur begins to head our way, though it does look like the east and southeast side of the circulation is where the heaviest rain is. The center itself is actually starting to weaken a little bit, so it could be interesting tonight. I think we're going to see pockets of heavy rain, but not everybody's going to get in on it. Here's the timing of everything. So after midnight, I have 11 p.m. there, and you go into midnight, you see the rain chances really ramp up. So by 1 o'clock, it's 80%. Between 2 and 5, that's when we have the highest chance of rain. And believe it or not, after that, rain should actually move out. So what's the impact? It's going to be overnight, midnight to 8 a.m., scattered showers and storms. Some will be quite heavy, locally 1 to 3 inches, certainly possible, and a few isolated thunderstorms are possible for our South Carolina counties. 70 degrees, okay, overnight. There will be a good 90% chance of scattered showers and storms tomorrow. Only in the morning. The rain moves out really quickly into the afternoon, and it actually will be a pretty nice Friday, to be honest with you. It's just we got to get through basically the morning hours. So we take a look at the impacts. Low tornado risk, though it's not zero. It's kind of a tropical setup, especially to our south. Winds, we've had winds all day. It's been very gusty, but the flood risk, I know we're in a drought and we want the rain, but this could fall too quickly, and this would lead to rapid runoff and likely some flash flooding. So let's look at our storm timing and impacts together. This will kind of give you a good idea. I start this graph at 10 o'clock. We go to 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Notice the bulk of this, midnight to 6 a.m. That's the time frame for both the highest winds and likely the biggest flood threat. But I will tell you, not everybody is going to see a flood threat. It's going to be these very narrow corridors. And we can look at our future casts again, hour by hour, kind of lays this out. Watch what happens here. By 10 o'clock, we've got the scattered showers already. We go to 1 a.m. You see the big batch of rain coming in from the west. But notice some of those darker shades of yellow, orange, and red. That's where if those set up over the same spot for any length of time, we could get flash flooding because that's 1 to 2 inches of rain per hour in those bands. And notice that's basically around Charlotte south. And then we go to about 7 a.m. That heavy rain band's over us, but by 8, 9, it starts to push off to the east, and skies will actually begin to clear out really, really quickly. And by middle of the day tomorrow, almost no rain at all will be around. We're actually going to see pretty nice weather for your Friday. We just got to get through the morning hours. And then the weekend, Father's Day weekend, absolutely picture perfect. It's going to be a great weekend all the way around. We'll see good weather for Dad on Saturday and Sunday, depending on what you do. So how much rain? Okay, $1 million question here. Where does the heavy rain set up? I think it's going to be in isolated spots, especially areas just west of Charlotte. That's where we're going to see the pockets of heaviest rain. I think 2 to 3 inches will be possible, but not in these exact spots. You're probably looking at bands of heavy rain setting up somewhere in the Piedmont that'll be over us through the morning hours and then gone. So it's not going to be all day tomorrow. This is really going to be tonight. And where those set up, that's going to be the tough part. We're literally going to have to watch the radar tonight to see where the heaviest rain band sets up. We've seen this system come up from the southwest. It's had isolated flood risk, but it's been in isolated spots. Here's a look at your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. Temperatures again in the 80s to near 90 degrees, very hot and humid, but dry this weekend. Scattered storms return Monday, Tuesday, and then going into next week, you'll see the upper 80s to near 90. Here's a good long look at the 10-day forecast. You can see temperatures, again, staying very summer-like, not crazy hot, not crazy cool either, kind of exactly where we're supposed to be, and kind of your typical rain chances. This is kind of an abnormal setup coming up from the southwest this evening. It's basically the remnants of a tropical system, and I'm going to show you our precipitable water map, which is going to kind of illustrate why the flood risk is there tonight. There's just a ton of moisture embedded in this system as it heads up here. So if we do see that system track right over us tomorrow morning, which it does look like it, we'll have very efficient rainfall out of these. So when you see these storms move in, the thing to think about is, yeah, they may not look impressive on radar, but boy, they have a lot of moisture to feed off of, and that will end up producing some very heavy rain in pockets. But then as we go through the weekend, the drier air filters back in. So this is not going to be one of those situations where it's going to be an all-day rain or a weekend totally washed out. This really is about the scattered nature of the storms, and also a quick hitter during the overnight hours. So let's go back to the radar real quickly. Tim's going to be joining me here momentarily. We'll show you where those showers and storms are right now. We'll take a quick tour for folks just tuning in on the stream. From Shelby over to Kings Mountain, Gastonia, down towards Clover, out towards the airport, then heading up just north of Noda, heading up towards the university area as you go north, and then another little cluster developing down towards Stallings, Matthews area, down towards Monroe. Looks like Ballantyne, starting to see a couple towards the Weddington area. Widen this out, you see a couple more showers developing in parts of Chesterfield County. That's where we're starting to see a bigger cluster develop. And then back in the mountains, that's where we've seen the active weather all day long. Got a couple warnings up to our north. We'll talk about that with Tim. But the bigger line I'm tracking is right here, coming out of the upstate of South Carolina and Georgia. That is pushing to the northeast. Roughly that speed right now, I'm going to quickly double check my speeds on how fast these are moving northeast. Looking at the movement, about 40 miles an hour. So they're hauling. They're moving pretty good. So we'll do a quick storm track on this real quickly. 40 mile per hour movement of these. Let me do a squall line. That'll be much easier. We'll track this at 40 miles per hour. That line right there, heading to the north and east. So we'll continue to track these storms, talk with Tim about what we expect overnight and the Father's Day weekend. That's coming up after the break.
Weather Impact Live with Brad Panovich is sponsored by Moisture Lock. Crawl space, basement, and foundation repair experts serving the Carolinas since 1988.
Tired of all this rain? Does your yard look like a swamp after it rains? Hi, I'm Greg Doggett with Moisture Lock, Charlotte's premier waterproofing and foundation repair company. The longer water sits, the softer soil will become. This can cause foundation issues. If you're having drainage issues, contact Moisture Lock. We'll get the water away from your home and out of your yard.
Moisture Lock, stabilize, enhance, protect.
Tim Buckley joins me. And Tim, getting pretty active out there this evening, and we're kind of preparing for maybe some heavier rain tonight. I think there's still some uncertainty, even at this late hour, how much heavy rain is going to make it up here tonight. But one thing's for sure, we've already had some pretty good thunderstorms out there right now, and I know you've got a couple warnings north of you, and you've actually probably had the most active weather out of the two of us so far today.
Yeah, Brad, good to be with you. It's been a little busy, in parts of our area. Our cities had some storms more close to 2-3 o'clock this afternoon. Then it's been pretty quiet, but the foothills, they've been lighting up over the last 90 minutes or so, one storm after another. Places like Surrey County, Wilkes County. It's kind of amazing if you look at some of the rain totals up there, estimated already in the 2, 3, 4 inch range. So that's something that I can't really say I was expecting. They're training storms over these same areas, as we would call them, when they just kind of reform in the same spots. It's pretty impressive to see it. We have had a couple of wind damage reports, mostly coming out of the Surrey County area, which is the Mount Airy, Pilot Mountain zone up that way. I think there's a lot of downburst potential in a lot of these storms still, which is something that we talked about yesterday. And now you're starting to get some new storms popping up near Winston-Salem. So it could be still a little busy over the next few hours. But, there's the proof right there. You just showed it. Basically, upwards of 3 to 6 inches. And I don't know. There could be a lot more on the way tonight for other parts of our area.
Yeah, and I think that's the big interesting part about today is, that the weather you guys have seen in those training storms have been associated with a cold front that's been dropping in from the north. I'll kind of show you the wider view. There were some big storms in the Ohio Valley last night, and it was kind of cool to watch the satellite and radar today, Tim. I know you saw this little, like almost an outflow boundary came out away from those storms, and helped initialize new storms over North Carolina, and they've just been hitting the same areas again and again. I was talking to Brittany about this earlier. It's kind of weird. The cold front has been sagging south, but the actual storms are moving northeast, so that's kind of like counterintuitive. The front's dropping down, but the storms are actually moving north, so it's kind of a weird setup. And then we've got the remnants of Arthur. And, when you look at this, Tim, I'm going to show you the wide view because we've got this big batch of storms crossing the Savannah River right now. But then we have the circulation center back in central Alabama. The question I have is, I know that first band's going to get here sometime tonight. I'm really curious what that second swirl, where is that going to go? Is that going to stay to our south? Is it going to move up close to Charlotte? Is it going to miss us completely? Either way, it's probably not going to matter because the first batch of storms definitely means business.
It just looks so much more impressive than it did at this time yesterday. And so something about the initial, we talked about the position of the storm was uncertain. Something about that changed, and it's in a more favorable place now to get up here. So whether it gets, the center gets up here or not, we're going to get more of that moisture than we thought this time yesterday. And, hey, we just got upgraded yet again with our drought. So any rainfall is good. We kind of root for this now, as long as we can keep most of the problems at bay. We'll keep an eye out for any, swirling storms overnight. I'm not so sure if that's a huge concern, but we'll welcome any of that rainfall.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. There's a part of our area got, upgraded to kind of a 5% risk of tornadoes. And I think that's mainly south, Tim. I'm kind of with you. I think we're going to be just stuck with rain and wind. The downburst potential's there. The timing, and this is Charlotte specific, so just so everybody knows who's watching in the triad, that I think after midnight to like 6 a.m. is kind of the window. And I do think there will be a flood risk just because of some of the tremendous rainfall rates, Tim. I think that's the thing that's impressed me about this. We talked about this before, precipitable water and the amount of tropical moisture. It's so deep and rich that if you get a thunderstorm, they end up being super efficient rainfall makers, and you end up with just a tremendous amount of rain. So when we look at our future cast, you can see the waves of showers and storms, which, by the way, it's not handling this initial batch very well, at least right now. But you can see later tonight that big slug of moisture comes up here, and anywhere we see those kind of reds and oranges, I wouldn't be shocked, Tim, if one of those little areas set up and we got like a quick 1 to 2 inches in like an hour, hour and a half. And no matter where you are in our area, that's going to cause a flash flood risk.
Yeah, it can. But if you had to pick a time of day for that to happen, middle of the night is not so bad. Now, the morning commute could be a bit of a mess, but nighttime rain, that's just fine. But I agree with you. I think we'll watch for maybe some flooding. There's probably going to be what's the best way to say it? A spot that doesn't get what you want, maybe a bust zone or a something like that, there will probably be some folks that miss out on decent enough rainfall totals. But there's going to be some heavy rain with this thing. I mean, tropical systems, they have a way of sometimes surprising us a little bit, especially the weak ones or the ones that we dub to be weak until they actually hit us. So I wouldn't rule it out. Overnight tonight, this thing could be impressive as it rolls through, and those rainfall rates could be high, like you said.
Yeah, so in full disclosure, we show the future cast. I always like to tell people, like, we show these very specific numbers, Tim, like 2.43 inches in Charlotte, 1.58 in Greensboro, and I'm always like, that's not going to happen. I really like to show this just so people see the variation, as you just alluded to. I mean, there's some pockets in here, like one of our Gastonia, almost 4 inches, but then like Asheboro, 0.75, or Statesville, 0.52. Now, is that going to be the exact rain in those locations? No, but that's kind of the pattern we'll see in our area. Somebody's going to get a couple inches, and someone else is probably only going to get like a half an inch, Tim. And where that actually sets up is kind of what we call a nowcasting thing. We got to wait and see where the band's set up, but we know that potential is in both of our areas overnight tonight and early tomorrow.
Yeah, and you could see a really high, what we would call a gradient. So, anywhere from, a 50-mile area could see the difference between a 1/4 inch of rain and 2 inches of rain. That's a real possibility as we go into the nighttime hours. And basically, I think if you're south of I-85, you have a better chance of getting the big rain. Yeah. The farther north you are, probably a lower chance of that. Now, as we just showed you, though, the radar, those places are getting hammered with rainfall right now. So maybe it'll all balance out in the end. I hope so. I'd love to get 2-3 inches of rain. We'll take whatever problems come with that. I'm just rooting for the rainfall. It's one of those first tropical systems I remember really rooting for, because as you're showing here, we saw the exceptional drought, the D4 area, the worst category. It doubled in size compared to last week. So now it's officially included most of Guilford County, Greensboro, basically from Durham through Greensboro and up toward Reedsville and the Virginia state line as well.
Yeah, so we saw that expansion, and you nailed this yesterday. I think you were alluding to, like, you kind of expected this to kind of spread towards your direction, and that really is an area, in May, we got lucky in Charlotte and parts south into the upstate, got some good rain. You guys didn't really get it. And then June has been really dry for everybody. And it's been hot, too, on top of that, Tim, which has just drawn even more moisture out of the plants. But, yeah, I mean, that exceptional drought area, that's where I'd love to see the rain. We actually had a little area get upgraded back to extreme in the Sandhills for us as well. So overall, it was not, kind of what we expected. It was definitely worsening drought conditions. So whatever we get tonight, I think that's what's going to make, at least short term, and again, this won't end the drought. I think we've said that multiple times, but short-term soil moisture, your lawn, your plants, this is the kind of rain that can, at least in the short term, Tim, really help people and at least save you from having to water, at least for the next week maybe.
It can, and anybody that was watching the show yesterday, we had that story about the kayakers and the tubers on the Dan River. They got hammered today. They've had like 2 inches of rain so far. So that's something of maybe a little benefit. But we were calling around doing some other drought stories today. We talked to somebody who works on wells. And he said just today he's had about 24 phone calls with people having problems with their well, whether it be low pressure, whether it be running out, toward the lower end of water supply. So this is already a problem in our area. And, if you have a well, you don't have anything else. So there's not a backup. So that's kind of one of the concerns. And people really should consider conserving water, even if you don't have those issues yet. You're going to want to start to conserve.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense because the people with wells, you tend to see the impacts later, but then they linger longer even after the drought is over. You're the last ones to recover. So I know initially when we had water restrictions, people were like, hey, I'm in a well. Do I need to restrict my water? I'm like, I probably would, even though you don't have a problem now. As Tim just said, you're probably going to see that creep up the longer this goes on into the summer months.
Yeah, for sure. And that might be, taking shorter showers. Some people do a little less flushing. You can Google that if you'd like to. All of those things are things you can consider. And obviously, watering the grass. The grass maybe is not as important as you having good drinking water. You probably want to think about that going forward. But in any case, this radar, pretty impressive, Brad. I wonder what we'll see with that line. What are your ETAs as that thing kind of moves up from the upstate of South Carolina for folks watching in Charlotte?
So I just did that. So most of the warnings down there and the special weather statements have had the movement about 40 miles per hour to the northeast. So if we put a track on that, that puts it into the Charlotte metro around 8:45-ish or so. Huntersville closer to 9. So that's probably going to put it up your way, Tim, if it makes it that far, like 10 o'clock, 11 maybe. If it keeps moving in that, it seems to be moving right up I-85. We'll have to see if it keeps chugging along or if it takes a right turn or something, because I think it'll be interesting when it gets closer to you, Tim, because you've kind of got that influence of the front and the storms to your north, if that'll have some kind of influence on those later tonight. And that's the other thing. We're going to get past sunset. Like, what is that going to do to this setup? Will it weaken these storms? Will we see kind of like we see this a lot with tropical systems. You mentioned this, like there's this nocturnal uptick in heavy rain. Even at night, sometimes you can see the rain really linger. And sometimes it's really deceiving because you don't get a ton of lightning. The tropical downpours happen without much lightning and without a lot of fanfare, but you can get just big fat raindrops and you end up to these really overnight downpours that happen. That happened last night, by the way, in parts of Louisiana. We were talking yesterday. The storm didn't look like much, and then overnight into the wee hours of the morning, that thing moved ashore near New Orleans and dropped some tornadoes and dropped heavy rain. And there was one spot, Tim, I was just looking. It was under a flash flood emergency in central Louisiana, and they had like 30 inches of rain today. 30 inches with a stationary part of this storm. And the crazy thing is, this tells you about Louisiana. That's a lot of rain. There was a flash flood emergency, but the recurrence interval for that was only like 130 years. I would have thought it would have been like a 1,000-year flood event. But that tells you how many big events they have in Louisiana, that type of rain is actually a little bit more frequent than it is up this way.
Man, it sure can rain down there. There's no doubt about that. And it just goes to show you, like we were saying last night, this thing looked pitiful. It doesn't need to be a strong storm to pick up and throw some moisture back on land. The Gulf is an animal. Hey, we see this occasionally. Remember last year with Chantal, that was kind of a bit of a surprise. PTC 8 down in the Carolina Beach, Southport area back in the Helene year. All these things can really creep up on you, but when you have an ocean or you've got the Gulf or anything like that, and you have the 80-degree water, you can get big rain. If there's not a lot of wind to push it around, it can just stack up and you are in trouble.
Yeah, so the area I was talking about, I'll highlight it, was this spot right here between. Now look how isolated that it is too, Tim. Alexandria had almost no rain. Baton Rouge almost had no rain. But in that little location, that little bright, it's actually off the charts. 30 inches of rain fell, and I think most of that fell in less than 12 hours. And then in southern Mississippi, they had other patches of 15 to 20 inches of rain. So yeah, you're right, Tim. It doesn't take much. These tropical systems, when they're weak like this, they just dump out a ton of moisture. And yeah, to your point, the Danville area, you guys got some good rain up there for the first time in a long time. That's all going to feed into the river system up there. So that definitely is going to help. And if we get more tonight, boy, that would be great.
Yeah, we don't get too many of these chances, so we'd love to cash in as we're able to overnight tonight. Hopeful. And, once this thing kicks out of here, you're going to have a really nice weekend. So let's get some rain here. Push it out by about 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow. Anything you have going on for Friday looks great. The humidity is going to drop again. It's going to be pretty comfortable. We got a lot of people going over to the Hurricanes Parade in Raleigh on Saturday morning. Yeah. That looks great as well. So everything is in good shape. But I'm glad we're re-showing the Futurecast here just for timing purposes. It really looks like about 2 to 3 a.m. is when it picks up. And you can see the swirl as evidenced by our model there. That swirl might move somewhere right near the Charlotte area.
Yeah, and what I think when I see that, Tim, the thing that I would think would worry me is that kind of northwest band. That's like a pivot point where sometimes that can sit over one spot because the swirl's there. And that's an area where you tend to get flash flooding on that northwest little side of a circulation. And so that rotates right across the metro area around 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. And obviously, Charlotte's a big urban center, a lot of impervious surface. That's a lot of runoff that's probably going to happen. And so by middle of the day tomorrow, this thing is gone, and Tim alluded to this. The weekend looks great, Tim. I mean, it really does. We get drier air for Saturday, upper 80s, and then Father's Day looks great, a little hotter, low 90s. It's weird. We're going to have all this rain, and then the weekend, really all Friday afternoon and the weekend looks absolutely amazing. Not even a cloud in the sky in some cases, and no rain around. So just a crazy nice weekend all in all. And it'll be interesting tomorrow. Yeah, I am a little worried about the morning commute, but here's the other thing. Tomorrow's a holiday. It's Juneteenth. Kids are out of school.
That's right.
Today kind of felt like Friday traffic-wise. I'm really wondering if there will be that many people on the road tomorrow morning, and that might be a saving grace for us that it's not a normal commute on Friday morning, so this might have less of an impact if it would have happened this morning or even yesterday morning, Tim.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really considered that, but that's true. And hey, if you are out there, I know you're not the one that drives badly. It's everybody else. Just watch out for those other drivers. It's always those other drivers we got to watch out for. But there will likely be some ponding of water. You know, that every one of you knows your trouble spots better than we do. Every neighborhood, every highway has a little bit of a trouble spot. Just kind of keep those in mind, because if that rain's coming down too hard, doesn't matter if you're in a drought, it's still going to pile up. And a lot of times, you know, that ground, it's hard as a rock, so a lot of it is really running off more than it would otherwise, and that could create a bit of a flood threat.
Yeah, and Tim, are you worried about that up your way because it's been so dry, an exceptional drought, that the heavy rain might run off a little easier in that area than it would be otherwise?
Yeah, I am. I think so. You know, I walk in my yard right now, and it feels like concrete. It's not something that I can ever remember feeling in our area. It's usually holding a ton of moisture. So I think that a lot of it, at least initially, is going to run off. And so that's going to allow for more of it to kind of collect. And it'll still fill up the ponds and those type of things, but it might create more problems on the roads than we would normally.
Yeah, and just remember, even in a drought, you can get flash flooding. If it rains hard enough, fast enough, it's going to run off and be a flash flood. The hope is that all that runoff does go into a retention pond, a lake, a stream, a creek, and kind of replenishes some of our water supply, because I doubt a lot of it will be soaking into the ground based on how hard it is right now. So we're out of time, Tim. That's great. We'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm going to be off, I know. Are you here tomorrow, Tim?
I'm here. We'll show you all about the sunshine.
All right. Have a great Thursday, and be safe out there tonight. We'll track this, though, online if anything pops up tonight on WCNC and WFMY.